Hey guys, Kakarot197 again, and today I'm back with part 3 of explaining all of the model numbers in Gundam. So today I will be going over the first of the alternate universes in chronological order, meaning G Gundam, Gundam Wing, Gundam X, and Turn A Gundam. So without any further ado, let's get started with G Gundam. And as with many things in the series, G Gundam does them a little bit differently. Rather than the maker or the government giving them a model number, the Gundams from G Gundam instead get their model number from the tournament that they're entering in. It starts with GF for Gundam Fight, the name of the tournament, then a sequential number of the Gundam fight that it's entering in, then a number indicating its placement during the previous Gundam fight, and then finally the initials of the country that it's representing. So for example, during the 12th Gundam fight, Master Asia entered with the GF12035 NH Kowloon Gundam, also known as the HOW Gundam in English, and won the tournament for Neo Hong Kong, which then means that when he entered the 13th Gundam fight with the same Gundam, it now got the model number GF13001 NH Kowloon Gundam, even though it was still the same mobile suit. And then for the fighters who switch Gundams during the tournament, a Roman numeral is added to denote that change. So sticking with the Master Asia example, his second Gundam, if you know what I mean, during the 13th Gundam fight became the GF13012 Master Gundam. Although in this particular case, one can argue whether or not he really did change Gundam. But anyways, we also get to see some more traditional model numbers in the series as well. For Neo Japan, we see JMS for mobile suits, JMA for mobile armors, and JMF for mobile fighters. J most likely stands for Japan, MS and MA are pretty self-explanatory at this point, and what I find very interesting is that in their model number they're making a differentiation between mobile suits with a traditional cockpit and mobile fighters who have the mobile trace system as a cockpit system. What the numbers mean though is anyone's guess. At first I thought maybe the year, but G Gundam takes place in Future Century 60 and the Nobushi is JMS 71, so that's not going to stick for that. And this thing with the numbers will basically continue with the rest of the model numbers for G Gundam. We've got Neo England's NET6MS Kashing, which is sometimes also listed as the MET6MS. Now, the former can be more easily explained as Neo England T something 6 mobile suit. The latter, though, doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. Then the Neo-Americans with their Murphy are also quite the enigma, the 29HSMS. But then the model number that's listed on the Gundam Wiki is slightly different and would also be easier to explain. It is the 29HAMS, where the H would then again stand for helicopter, the A for assault or attack, and MS for mobile suit, making the full meaning an attack helicopter mobile suit, which is essentially what this thing is meant to be. Fortunately then, Neo France is a little bit easier. They're just using their initials, NF, Neo France, followed by MS for the mobile suit, and then a number. However, they also have one of the most confusing ones, the NEL75C Butler Bensomon, one of the only giant robots that I know of that is controlled by a steering wheel. Not the only one, but one of the few ones. But anyways, despite this machine being used by Neo France, the model number begins with NE, which are the initials for Neo England. So when I tried thinking about what that NEL could mean, I just kept going round and round in circles, and my mind just kept going back to Neo England something. Like, eventually I started thinking like, did Neo England make these machines and then just sold them to rich people who could afford a mobile suit butler, and then just like George Descend bought it for his butler? But whatever. Finally then, Neo Mexico made this god-awful abomination, the P-143S Pescatore. Frankly, this was something that I didn't even want to try making sense of, and something I want to forget as soon as possible. So let's quickly move on to Gundam Wing, where things get a little bit easier. Since most of the mobile suits in universe are made by Oz, most Wing machines do also follow their numbering scheme. They all start with Oz for obvious reasons, a sequential model number, and then a type code. This last one can be just MS for mobile suit, AMS for aerial mobile suit, MMS or marine mobile suit, SMS for space mobile suit, and MD for mobile doll. Other armies then use their own numbering scheme, but fortunately they are equally simple to decipher. The Sang Kingdom adopted Oz machines and also kept their naming system, but they replaced Oz with SK for Sang Kingdom, which was something that the White Fang would also do later on, replacing Oz with WF for White Fang. Another faction then that adopted Oz machines was the Marimea army, although only their main machine, the Serpent, got a new designation MMS-01 instead of Oz-17MS. So here we got a more traditional naming scheme. First we have Marimea Mobile Suit, followed by a sequential number. The Mogwanac Corps then decided to use their own machines with their own designation as well. They all start with WMS, which most likely stands for Winner Mobile Suit. Winner, of course, being the rich family that helped with the development and the construction of these machines. This is then, as usual, followed by a sequential number. And finally then for Gundam Wing are the Gundams. They all start with XXXG, a sequential number, the initials for the Gundam in question, and then if it's an upgraded version, there is a 2 there. And unlike what you might be expecting, the sequential number is 00 for the Wing 0 and 01 for all other Gundams. The numbers unfortunately do not line up with the name of the pilots or their call sign given to them by Oz. On to Gundam X then, and we're starting off with the Federation, also known as the United Nations Earth. For the Gundams, the model numbers all start with a G, presumably for Gundam, followed by their call sign, X for the Gundam X, T for the Leopard or the Leopard, however you want to pronounce that, and W for Airmaster. The X is quite self-explanatory, the T could stand for tank, and well, the W, I guess, stands for Wumbo. As for the number, the first 2 digits seem to be some kind of sequence, with the last or the last 2 serving for variants. Later on then, letters were also added after the numbers to denote customizations made to them. Then each of the 3 Gundams also had a matching G bit, which used largely the same number, with G being now replaced by an F, possibly meaning flash for the flash system, and GB presumably meaning G-bit that was tagged at the end of the model number. A support fighter for the Gundams then was the G-Falcon, and because of that, it also seems to be following the numbering convention of the Gundam. It starts with GS, probably Gundam support, then 9900 or 9900, neatly following the sequence of the Gundams. Onto the mass-produced machines then, they seem to be following largely the same numbering style as the Gundams. They start with DT, denoting that they're a mass production model, and can then be followed by an M for marine units. The numbers that follow then are similar to those of the Gundams, and can then be followed by a suffix to denote specialized units like commander units, high mobility units, etc. Now, we don't know what exactly that DT stands for, but if I had to give something, what I noticed is that all of the unit names start with DAW. Dawtress, Dawtap, Dawseat, etc. So something that kinda came to my mind was, what if that DAW has some kind of meaning for the mobile suits, and that then the model number is DAW type? But yeah, that's just my guess on the matter. Then when they became the new United Nations Earth, the model numbers suddenly became much more straightforward. They all start with NR, N standing for either new or neo, and R most likely standing for Rempo, which, as you might remember from previous videos, is Japanese for Federation, and is also what the United Nations Earth is called in Japanese in the Gundam X anime. This can then be followed by an X for experimental units or an MA for mobile armors. And then after this, we get a sequential number that is specific for each of the prefixes. So for example, the Valiant was NRX-009 as an experimental unit, but NR-001 as a mass production unit. Of course, there always has to be one unit that is an exception to the rule, and that is the Daughters Neo. Even though this machine was mass-produced, it kept the NRX model number and it never got a regular NR model number. On the opposing side then, we have the Space Revolutionary Army with a very simple naming convention. There's RMS for mobile suits and, well, as always, the MS is quite self-explanatory. The R in this case could mean many things. My first thought was because it's a Space Revolutionary Army, it would stand for Revolution or Revolutionary. Because their mobile armors use just MA, it could very well mean something completely different. Whatever the case might be, this can then be followed by an N for a new type machine, and finally there is a sequential number. But before we get into the mess that is Turn A's model numbers, we've got to look at one more small faction in the Gundam X universe. In order to put up a fight against the expanding new United Nations Earth, the Democratic Republic of Gastar, the People's Republic of Estar, and the United Kingdom of Northern Bel established a fragile alliance, and the model number used by their mobile suits reflected this. They used ENG, the initials for all three of the countries, followed by a sequential number. Now, what I cannot say for certain is whether this model number came into being with their new alliance, or if they had worked together in the past to create these mobile suits together as well. Whatever the case might be, it has unfortunately now become time to have a glance at Turn A Gundam. And I kid you not when I say that while I was writing this part of the script, I got an advertisement for psychological help. So I'm not going to delve too deep into this, because otherwise I might actually have to take them up on their offer. Now, of all of the model numbers, the only ones that make total sense are the excavated units because, well, they're from UC series and they just kept their model number. Then there's a few mobile suits that kinda have a model number that makes sense because it starts with MRC, which, likely stands for Moonrace, although we cannot be completely certain because there's another one that just uses MR, so if that stands for something else, maybe MRC stands for something else as well. But putting aside those few machines that kinda make sense, everything else can be summed up in 5 words. Random, number, and letter generator. We've got joys like the JMA0530 Model U Wadom, the NRS-P701 Godzo, and the TAFM9 Egale. I'm not even going to begin to tackle these unless I sometime in the future find a source that explicitly tells me what they mean. So for any die-hard Turn A Gundam fans out there, be sure to leave your theories on what these model numbers could mean down below. As for me, this is where I'm going to be leaving it for today. I need to go prepare myself to tackle the Gundam Seed model numbers. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time with more model numbers.